Hi guys, my name's Alex, and I'm from Everlance. Everlance makes tracking your mileage, expenses, and revenue as a freelancer effortless. We hope to do much more than that and start offering financial services on top of that business graph. I know this is a little cheesy, but I wanted to start with something from the ultimate underdog, David versus Goliath. So as you might remember in that parable, David versus Goliath, Goliath is way bigger than David and a way better fighter. So how does David beat him? David doesn't play Goliath's game, he plays David's game. David kills Goliath with a sling and not a sword. I would argue that that sling for financial services is distribution. One of the things we talk a lot about at Everlance is this idea that the battle between startup and incumbent comes down to whether the startup can build distribution before the incumbent can build or buy innovation. So first, I wanted to talk about a startup from a previous generation, not the 1990s, but the 1930s. All right. The Government Employees Insurance Company. You might recognize this handsome young gentleman as Warren Buffett. And in 1951, Geico was his #1 stock pick. Why did Warren Buffett like Geico so much? Well, they were innovating. Geico had no agents and no branch offices. Geico serviced their customers with 500 representations, 500 reps on the phone. The phone, believe it or not, was a major technology innovation, and Geico was riding that wave. Innovation happens in a linear way. At one point, the idea of having a national brand and branch offices was very innovative. Then the phone came along, and a direct-to-consumer model emerged. Geico in 1951 was able to offer 30% discounts to their auto insurance premiums versus the industry average of 8%. In the 2000s, the web emerged, and there were probably a few lucky souls that started to buy AdWords before it was popular. They were probably acquiring customers from Google incredibly cheaply. But what happened? Word got out, and that channel became saturated and hyper-competitive. Now, the top 3 most expensive AdWords on Google: insurance, loans, mortgage. Those are all financial services. So if you're a startup and it costs you over $50 per click to get in front of a customer, that's hard. That's what we call a barrier to entry. So what I'd argue is that a lot of startups are trying to beat Goliath at Goliath's game. That doesn't make sense. Instead, what if they can create their own distribution? I would argue that some companies are doing this by creating an independent value proposition. I think this is a really exciting idea. So for example, Credit Karma doesn't acquire a customer who wants debt consolidation or a new credit card. What do? They acquire customers who are curious what their FICO score is or want credit monitoring. That's also an activity that has an enduring relationship with the end user. Gusto is another really great example. Their beachhead is payroll. What they call delightful payroll, and they have an engaging and enduring relationship with the HR professional. It's not a stretch. They would also offer those employees other benefits like health insurance. At Everlance, we do expense tracking. When I was in grad school, I drove Lyft. As part of that thing, as part of a Lyft driver, I didn't keep track of my expenses, which was a huge pain. There's actually 55 million self-employed and independent contractors in this country, and then for them, expense tracking isn't a nice to have, it's a need to have. So what's the sort of startup's playbook? Well, for us, we acquire our users through the App Store for people that are looking for that independent value proposition. They're looking for tools. If you search in the App Store for expense tracker, you'll see Everlance ahead of Concur, which is another corporate solution. If you search for Mileage Log or Mileage Tracker, we'll be there too. I'd argue that what we need to do is delight the customer with free or subsidized value in exchange for acquiring users at a lower cost. Then we need to build a data-powered and enduring relationship with the end user. This is something that incumbent doesn't have. They don't have that frequency of touch. I think the startup's challenges for Everlance and our peers is relevancy and coupling the independent value proposition to the financial service where the startup can actually build a meaningful and defensible business. So why is this interesting to us? Well, it's because it's our bet. We don't know how it's going to turn out yet, but so far the first half of it's turned out well. We launched our iOS app in September, and we're flirting in the top 100 of the free finance category. We're logging well over 1 million miles per day across our user base. There's millions of dollars of independent revenue and expenses flowing through the platform, and we've been able to do this all with paying $0 for new customers. Our next step is trying to offer those people meaningful financial services that are built on top of that business graph. So if you have any ideas or thoughts, we'd love to hear from you. I'm Alex at Everlance.com.